was the biggest transfer saga of 2022, the move that almost broke football, and yet behind the scenes a lot was going on that stayed away from the public. From hidden agendas to secret texts, blackmail, and a childhood relationship on the line, this is the secret truth about Kylian Mbappe's move to Real Madrid. And the stuff you're about to find out, it'll blow your mind. Mbappe to Real Madrid has always been a destiny. He was born in 1998 in France, a special year for the national team too, because that was the year Les Bleus conquered the world. Mbappe was born in the town of Bondy in France. And ever since he was a kid, the only thing he'd known was football. It runs in the family. His dad, Wilfried Mbappe, used to be a former pro, and his mum, Faiza Lamri, was a former handball pro player back in the day. Mbappe already had that sporting gene running through him. At the age of 5, Mbappe had already started playing for the local AS Bondy team, and he was coached by his dad as a way of keeping him out of trouble, and at the same time learning the game. Mbappe had become so good at such a young age that there was only one next step he could take. The one that almost guarantees that the teenage sensation is bound to become a star. He joined the Clairefontaine Academy. This academy is special because it's only reserved for the best of the best talent in France. Players like Thierry Henry and Nicolas Anelka played here, and Mbappe was going to as well. He impressed in the academy, and it was here in 2012 that he made his first contact with destiny. A host of clubs had seen Mbappe play, and they all wanted to see for themselves just how good he was. Real Madrid was the first to approach Kylian. They brought him to Spain, showed him around, and he eventually got to meet his idol Cristiano Ronaldo, as you can see in the picture. But it didn't guarantee anything for him yet. Madrid invited him to come and train with the under-12s, and after he was done, he went to England to play for Chelsea in a trial match. But the London club refused to sign him after. Damn. Mbappe eventually returned to France, continued to train hard, and by 2013 he got his first big break in the game. AS Monaco had signed Mbappe on a 3-year deal, beating Real Madrid to his signature because they put in more effort to sign him. Actually though, it kind of feels like Mbappe had his future carefully planned out. He could have moved to Madrid early on at the time, but France was home, and Monaco was offering him the chance to start without all that pressure of having to adapt, and he took it. Mbappe at Monaco. He shattered the records as they came. In December 2015, he became the youngest player to play for Monaco, and in the game against Troyes in February 2016, Mbappe became the youngest player to score for AS Monaco. Crazy. He broke both records belonging to Thierry Henry in the space of 3 months. In 2016, Mbappe signed his first professional contract with the club, and it's safe to say the 2016-17 season was the year he truly exploded into the scene. 28 goals and 14 assists in 46 games, and they don't even tell the full story. Mbappe that season was a revelation. He had everything. He was quick, skilled, and could play anywhere in attack. His goals against teams like Manchester City, Borussia Dortmund, and Juventus in the Champions League made him one of the most in-demand teenagers in the world. At the end of his first season, Mbappe had won Ligue 1 with AS Monaco, won the Young Player of the Season award, and made the Team of the Season. And in turn, he started a bidding war in Europe. Real Madrid were back, and they wanted him. The thing is, at the time, Madrid's interest in Mbappe wasn't exactly concrete. There were also rumours tying them to other players like Eden Hazard too. And so in the end, they stayed as just that, rumours. They lingered on for a bit, just enough time for another one of Mbappe's admirers to speed up and overtake them in the race to sign him, PSG. Monaco had broken their 4-year dominant streak in the league, and a huge part of that was thanks to the efforts of their 17-year-old talent. In turn, Mbappe probably realised that even though it was still early on in his career, it was time to move on to bigger things. And that's when PSG dropped him an offer he simply couldn't refuse. They didn't just sign him, PSG made Mbappe become the most expensive teenage transfer of all time, and the second most expensive transfer in the world. Mbappe wasted no time in settling in. He hit an impressive 21 goals and 16 assists in all competitions, including 4 goals and 3 assists in 8 Champions League games. And all of that form was enough to earn him a place on France's ticket to the World Cup, where Mbappe stole the show. In Russia, he was electric. France won the whole thing and he balled all through. With his 4 goals, Mbappe won the tournament's Young Player of the Competition award and set a record as becoming the second player alongside Pele to score a goal in the World Cup final as a teenager. Mbappe was living the dream and setting the stage for even better performances too. Post the World Cup now, and Mbappe once again continued to show there was even more to come. In 2018-19 the numbers went up again, 39 goals and 17 assists in 43 games. Damn, he'd already cemented status as a first-team regular, both for PSG and France. And to give you a picture of just how good he was at this point, here's his CV at the end of 2019. 3-time Ligue 1 winner, 3-time Ligue 1 Player of the Year, won the French Ligue 1 Player of the Month award 4 times, a Ligue 1 Player of the Year award, a FIFA Golden Boy award, 1 league, 1 Golden Boot, and a 2-time French Play of the Year. Honestly, all of this just feels like video game numbers. The 2019-20 season was special for Mbappe for multiple reasons. Despite a COVID-hit season for football, by the time leagues resumed in August, even though the French Ligue 1 was officially over, Mbappe and PSG were still in the running for the Champions League. And for the first time under the Qatari leadership, they made it to the final. It wasn't quite the result they wanted though. A 1-0 loss in the final meant Mbappe was still searching for this first European title. Yet another miss, only this time in Mbappe's head, it was starting to add up. At this point, he was now the most marketable footballer in the world. Don't get me wrong, Messi and Ronaldo still played in Europe in that period, but Mbappe was something else. From the goals he scored to his dribbling skills and aura, his presence was something else. He even got to become the face of FIFA in the following year, and the global brand status made him a plus for any team that would have him. PSG were winning. They wanted to translate those wins to the pitch though, and so in 2020-21, it was all systems go again. The results though were a massive disappointment. They got knocked out of the Champions League and on domestic soil for the first time in 4 years. They failed to win the title. The problems at PSG were glaring enough for anyone to see. They had the money but lacked a proper footballing structure. Just bought whenever they wanted for mega prices and never really cared if the players fit the team or not. And Mbappe was getting fed up. See, at that point he had 1 year left on his contract, and for a player who happened to be the most marketable in the world, there was no way PSG was going to lose him for free. And this, guys, is the moment we've been building up to when the bidding war for Mbappe officially began. Real Madrid finally wanted their man. In Madrid president Florentino Perez's eyes, Mbappe was the perfect fit. He not only matched with the club's DNA of signing star players, under the term Galacticos, Mbappe wasn't going to need that much convincing, because as evidence had shown in the last, he wanted to play for Madrid. Madrid officially put in an initial bid of $150 million. And I mean, it should have been enough. The guy had just 1 year left on his contract, and Madrid could have just waited on him for free. But they wanted him now. And so when PSG and Al Nassr Khalifi said no, Madrid and Perez dropped a second improved bid of $180 million. And they still said no. Perez wanted him, but so too did PSG. With Nasser Al-Khalifi, the message was clear. He wasn't for sale, and they were ready to do whatever it would take to keep Mbappe at the club. Anything. Perez, though, wasn't going to back down, so he launched a third and final bid of $200 million. But I'm pretty sure you'd have gotten the memo by now. Al-Khalifi said no, and with that, the transfer window shut. At the moment, it was proper chaos. If a player like Mbappe with his status wasn't going to move, he most probably wasn't going to do it mid-season. So that summer window seemed like the best bet, and when he didn't leave, his future was up in the open. On the PSG front though, managing to keep Mbappe was a major win because, as they'd seen in the past, the most dominant teams in the competition they were trying to win had a jaw-breaking front three that scared the continent. And they'd already managed to secure the services of Lionel Messi on a free transfer from Barcelona, and still had Neymar in the team. Keeping Mbappe and forming a front three like that became the mission, and they won. At least that's how they saw it. By the time January came along, it was the moment of decision. Mbappe now had just 6 months left on his contract, and through his agent, Faisal Lamri, his mum, well, his future was already decided in-house. And on D-Day, Mbappe stunned the world by announcing that he and his family had subscribed to Mr. Football. Oh, he did that already. The second thing he said, it was this: He renewed his contract with PSG for 3 years, and the details on that contract were out of this world. A $250 million a season signing fee, and a contract giving him over $1 million a week. Mbappe didn't just become the highest paid player in the continent. As part of his contract, he also got an executive role at the club that allowed him to get a say in who the club should sign and the players they should let go. Mbappe was money, but the deal to get him in involved the guys at the very top. Even the president got involved. France's #1 citizen, Emmanuel Macron, pleaded with Mbappe not to leave. And in the end, I guess Mbappe caved in. At least that's what it looked like. Maybe PSG had a sporting project, and he was going to be the face of it. PSG ended the season as anyone would have predicted. They won the league again, but in the Champions League, the competition they wanted, well, they lost out in the round of 16 to Real Madrid. You can't even script this stuff up. Already signs that Kylian may have chosen the wrong team, and in 2022-23, they were clear to him. Still the most marketable player in the world, but this time Mbappe was bound to PSG. 2022-23 was full of promise for PSG. The M&M trio were in their second full season, and were expected to have gelled into a full unit by now, as were other members of the team, but for large parts they looked disjointed. And Mbappe himself cut out a figure that was growing increasingly frustrated with his time at the club. And so when the World Cup rolled around at the end of the year, it was the chance for a fresh start. He balled hard again. Mbappe put in a proper shift at the World Cup. He matched his total tally from the previous year in helping France get to the final again. Except this final wasn't going to be like the one from 2018. He was coming up against a teammate who wanted to finish his story, Lionel Messi's Argentina. The final was an epic. A 3-3 draw after extra time. Messi scored a brace and another former PSG star, Angel Di Maria, scored for Argentina. But Mbappe once again grabbed the headlines. He carried an entire nation on his back with a hat-trick to send the game to penalties 3-3. Mbappe and France ultimately lost on penalties, but what he'd done that evening showed that when it came to the big games, Mbappe was up for it. He won the World Cup Golden Boot with 7 goals and became the first man to score a hat-trick in the final since 1958. Impressive stuff. Back at PSG now, and they somehow hit a new low. They won the league again and got knocked out of the Champions League in the round of 16 phase. Again. At the end of the 2023 season though, 2 of the front 3 wanted out for personal reasons too. Messi was having a horrible time in Paris. He and Mbappe had reportedly fallen out. The move didn't work, and in the end Messi packed his bags with his family and headed off to the States to join Inter Miami. Neymar said goodbye after 6 years too, although his was a bit different. He and Mbappe had been involved in multiple altercations many times, so there was a bit of afters between the two. Neymar eventually said goodbye and went to the Saudi Pro League to join Al Hilal. And with 2 of their star attackers gone, PSG wanted to make sure the main man Mbappe didn't leave, and that's when they hit the second part of the contract that triggered a war. Mbappe's contract was for 3 years, but on paper it was actually for 2 years with the option to extend for another year. The option to extend part was supposed to be a gentleman's agreement between the club and Mbappe. As long as he said yes, the deal was in place. But in a shocking turn of events just before the start of last season, Mbappe said no. See guys, he was fed up. Now they both weren't playing nice guys anymore. Mbappe wanted to leave. It was in his eyes, and the way he played, he was no longer that 19-year-old kid with a lot of potential. He'd turned 25 and had expected so much more from his career on a personal level that he wasn't getting on a personal level. The club's lack of structure had also gotten to him. Since his arrival, they'd gone through 5 managers in 7 years. Doesn't exactly scream stable, and the countless Champions League disappointments were just too much. On the PSG front though, the stance was still the same. Mbappe wasn't going to leave for free, end of debate. When they got into talks with Kylian and his camp, it was to renew his contract, based on the terms of the deal. After the second season was up, Mbappe could leave the club for free, and that would be the worst outcome for them. And so when they saw Mbappe and his mum weren't going to back down on their stance of not signing the 1-year extension, things got ugly. They resorted to violence. Now, PSG had a new stance. Since Mbappe didn't want to sign the new contract, they had no choice but to put him up for sale. Heck, it was even so bad that they were willing to loan him and sell him off a year later. Now, with PSG putting him up for sale officially, you'd think Real Madrid would have jumped at the offer and made a move to end with him, right? Yeah, Perez wasn't joking when he said that Mbappe chapter was closed. They didn't even budge or make any comments. When PSG saw the attempts to sell Mbappe weren't going to work, the club suspended him from training with the first team or any team. He was only allowed to train on his own. It was chaos at the time, the Mbappe and PSG relationship was broken, and it was only when Luis Campos and Luis Enrique intervened that the issue got resolved and Mbappe was allowed to train with his teammates again. But all of that harsh treatment only strengthened Mbappe's anger. He no longer wanted to play for the club, he wanted out and he wanted it fast, but he still wanted to go out with a bang. In the same summer, he was named the new captain of the national team, a symbol of French pride, but it still didn't change his mind. Mbappe wanted to leave. He'd done everything he could to try and help the club become as successful in Europe, but the issue was quite simply beyond him. There were things at the club he was never going to be able to fix on his own, and now he wanted out. It was a case of putting one last epic performance for the fans, and he did. He finished as the club's top scorer last season, 44 goals and 10 assists in all competitions for PSG. He won Ligue 1 and the Coupe de France, but in the Champions League, it was a case of another disappointing semi-final exit to Borussia Dortmund. And with just weeks to the end of the season, Mbappe dropped the bombshell the world had been waiting years for. The official announcement: after 7 years at the club, he was finally leaving. Mbappe had conquered PSG, he was the all-time top scorer for the club, won Ligue 1 6 times with the club, and won 6 Ligue 1 golden boots. He'd done the lot. And now it was time to finally close the chapter, and his next destination was a date with destiny. It finally happened. After so many twists and turns, Mbappe joined Real Madrid on a free transfer from PSG a couple of weeks back. Now guys, the question is, why did it take so long? The reasons are way more than you think. On the surface, PSG didn't want to lose their biggest superstar, but it was deeper than that. See, when the Qatari-led takeover happened in 2013, PSG was aiming to model the super club status of the likes of Real Madrid and Barcelona. They wanted to be like those guys in Europe. So losing their best player to one of these clubs was only going to strengthen their opponents and reduce their reputation. And that's why they kept refusing. Mbappe was the key to making all of that happen, and they knew it too well. So they did everything they could to make sure he stayed. Gave him a contract that set him up for life, all to make him stay, but in the end he chose to leave. On a personal level, contrary to what some fans think, Mbappe loved the club. Now here's the thing, he could have easily rejected the contract offer PSG dropped in 2022 and signed for Madrid then. But he'd spent 4 years at the club and had already grown in love with the city and the fans. So much so that he thought he could make it work. He was the face of the club, the star of the team, and to him it would have been the perfect story. The dream kid bringing the dream trophy to the dream city, Paris. And so every year, especially in Europe, Mbappe set out on a mission to take PSG to the team. But other factors like his teammates' poor form and the sporting decisions at the club ultimately cost him. There's another hidden factor to the Mbappe transfer saga that everyone keeps missing out on. See, Mbappe wasn't just the face of PSG, he was the face of the league. Compared to the big European leagues in terms of the competition level and status, the French Ligue 1 was far behind. Even when guys like Messi came along, it still lacked the appeal. But with players like Mbappe playing at PSG, the most marketable player in the world, the French Ligue 1 still had something to hold on to. And it was because of this fact that the president got involved. Remember when I said Macron begged Mbappe to stay? Yeah, he didn't want him to leave because just like everyone in France knew, Mbappe going would be drastic to the league's economic and commercial value. The best player in the country playing for the strongest team in the country made sense from a sporting point. And looking back at it now, I guess it's easy to see why Macron wanted Mbappe to stay, because after he announced his decision to leave and eventually left, this happened. There's a new season coming up and Ligue 1 has no broadcasting rights because, quite frankly, no one's watching again. They're in a dangerous position too. Imagine going a full season and there's no one willing to show league matches. It means there's no money from commercial TV revenue, and in turn, there's a host of teams who would suffer as a result. Mbappe's now a Real Madrid player, and the saga that surrounded the whole move is over. From the threats to the demands, he's left the team to join Madrid, the current Champions League winners. And you can't blame the guy, he wants to succeed on a personal level. It'll be interesting to see if Mbappe can do it at a mega club like Madrid, where he won't be the only star in the team. I'd bet there's a section of the Madrid fans praying Mbappe's transfer doesn't end up like the Robinho case. He should have been one of the best players of his generation, had all that Brazilian flair, and lit up the country before moving to Madrid in a mega money move. But from the highs of football, the guy's now behind bars. And you can find out what really happened by hitting that next video.